Okay. Hi guys, today I'm doing Iready. Reading Art Contest Jitters by Lewis.
Drawings of heroes from my favorite tales, battling monsters all covered with scales. Even with so many gruesome details, my art stays hidden away. My school is having its first art contest, a chance for us all to show off our best. It's an idea that makes me feel stressed, so my work won't be on display.
Okay, we're gonna go to questions.
What problem
now.
does the narrator of the poem face?
The narrator of the poem. What problem does the narrator of the poem face? The narrator of the poem does not want to get in trouble for drawing artwork of beats in class. The narrator does not want to show his artwork because he is worried others will dislike it. The narrator does not want to scare classmates with his artwork showing scaly monsters.
The narrator does not...
I think it's this one. Yes.
When the time comes for the contest to start, we sit around to learn who took part. Wait, you mean no one turned in their art? Says my teacher in dismay.
Correct?
I don't think art's for a judge to compare.
Correct?
What if instead we just let artists share?
Okay.
Slowly, hands lift pieces up in the air. Guess I too could present today.
Next.
Fill in the blanks to summarize this part of the poem.
No one turns in their art because the students are afraid to be judged. The narrator suggests that classmates share their art instead of holding a contest. In the end, the narrator and his classmates display their drawings.
Panic with Sprinkles on Top by Brooks Benjamin. As you read, think about how the story is similar to and different from the poem.
Okay.
I stepped into my grandparents' bodega and went for the broom as I did every day after school. But today, Abuelo had already started sweeping the store. What's going on? I asked him. That's when Abuela came shuffling around the counter carrying a box. We have a surprise for you, mijo, she said, nodding toward the glass case on the counter where several desserts were displayed. Remembering conversations about selling Abuela's homemade sweets, I looked back to the box, my mouth watering. Is that king's cake? Something better than rosca de res, she exclaimed, opening the box and pulling out a wad of plastic material. As it unfurled, I realized it was a costume made to look like a cupcake, with electric blue icing, brightly colored sprinkles, and a giant red cherry hat with a huge plastic stem.
I'm going to learn what a bodega is.
A bodega is a neighborhood convenience store. An example of a bodega is a corner store that people can walk to easily where they can buy groceries and basic necessities. A bodega may also have a deli counter or salad bar, and it may stay open later than other stores.
Okay, that's what a bodega means.
My stomach lurched as my eyes drifted to my grandparents' expectant faces. No sweeping today, Abuelo said proudly. You're going to advertise our new pastry case.
Okay, next question.
What problem does the narrator of the story face?
The narrator of the story faces... Narrator... Okay, it has to be this one because these two just don't make sense.
Outside on the sidewalk, the inflatable costume swallowed me whole, and the cherry hat kept falling over my eyes. At least it's helping, I thought, as another group approached. But when I realized who they were, my heart threatened to rip through the costume's icing. It was 3 of my classmates, including Kalisha, the girl who made me blush even when I wasn't dressed like a giant pastry. No, 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 I whimpered, looking for a place to hide. I waddled toward the bodega, hoping to dive inside, but the hat fell over my eyes and my face collided with the store's glass window. I bounced backward and then stumbled over a crack in the sidewalk and fell to the ground, the air in my costume puffing out like an exasperated sigh.
The next question.
Fill in the blanks to compare and contrast the narrator in the poem with the narrator in the story.
Both narrators are worried about being embarrassed. Their settings and details are different. In the poem, the narrator doesn't want anyone to judge his heart. In the story, the narrator doesn't want anyone to see him in the costume.
Whoa, you okay? Kalisha's voice floated to me as the others helped me up. I launched into a breathless explanation. I usually just sweep, but my grandparents started selling pastries and bought this costume so I could be a walking advertisement for them. I let out a deep sigh. So, care to sample our super sweets? I said, making a stab at being amusing.
Compare what happens in each text. What idea do the poem and the story share?
The narrator are worried needlessly. The narrator hides and then leaves. The narrators tease their classmates. I don't think any of these make sense. I think it has to be this one. That was the closest one to making sense to me.
The group agreed and walked inside the bodega, leaving me melting in my own sweat and humiliated as I realized I'd had my first conversation with Kalisha while dressed as a giant cupcake. I grabbed the cherry and plopped it back on my head. A few minutes later, the group exited with a bag of pastries to share. As she went by, Kalisha handed me a cookie. "For you," she said, walking on but glancing back over her shoulder with a smile. "See you around, Sprinkles."
Okay, this should be the next question. Yep.
Fill in the blanks to explain how the poem and the story share a common theme.
The poem's narrator worries that his classmates won't like his art. The story's narrator worries that his costume will look silly. Later, both narrators worries tend to worsen. A common theme is that people think too much about others' opinions. Bruh!
A theme is a general statement about human nature and society, and is usually not stated directly in the text. You can figure out a text's theme by considering what happens to the main characters and what they learn as a result. Think about the main problems the narrators of each passage face. Then think about how those problems are solved. What can you learn from both the ending of the poem and the ending of the story?
Well, both narrators' worries fail to happen? Yeah. Next.
Little Sister, Big Problem by Lee Lewis. Read carefully.
Oh, it's the same Lee Lewis guy.
You only get one try to answer each question.
My room is like my fortress. Of that I have no doubt. But I need a moat with crocodiles to keep trespassers out. Sis was at Robotics camp. It was a peaceful week. Now camp's over, she's coming home, and my future's looking bleak. We two have been at war forever. The battles never cease. She's only 10, but oh so clever. There is no hope for peace.
Next, the question is going to be,
What problem does the narrator of the poem face?
the narrator notices that neighbors are trespassing through the backyard. Her sister expects him to help her create a robot using her skills from camp. The narrator dislikes his bedroom and wants his sister to help him make it more like a castle. His sister is coming home from the camp and he wants to keep her out of his room because they fight all the time. Yep.
She stops outside my stronghold, but I won't let her pass through. Instead of her causing havoc, though, she says, "This is for you." It's a cool robotic dragon with lit-up yellow eyes. Is this a test? Is Sis truly saying that we could be allies? Perhaps we could call a truce to end our age-old spat. Now that I have a metallic beast, I would be cool with that.
Okay, next.
Fill in the blanks to summarize the end of the poem.
At first, the narrator wants to Sis to stay out of his room, then Sis gives him a gift, and he thinks they will finally get along.
Cooking Catastrophe by Brooks Benjamin. As you read, think about how the story is similar to and different from the poem.
"You'd better go or you'll be late," Megan told her mom, who was standing in the living room, car keys in hand, giving last-minute instructions. "You're sure you don't mind taking care of dinner?" Mom asked. "We're fine, right?" Megan replied, elbowing her younger brother. Joseph looked up from his phone, scowling, then noticed his mom's raised eyebrows, her surefire way of telling him she disapproved of his attitude. Yeah, fine." As soon as she left, Joseph hopped onto the couch, his eyes glued to his phone. "You're really not going to help?" Megan asked. "Can't, I'm editing my video." "Joseph, we persuaded Mom that we could handle making the kimchi jjigae," Megan said, "and she'll be disappointed if we mess up Grandpa's favorite dish." Kimchi is a traditional Korean side dish made by combining cabbage with various spices. Kimchi is not served right away. It must ferment or age for a few days or longer to achieve its full flavor. Kimchi jjigae, a spicy kimchi stew, is a popular winter meal in Korea.
Next. Okay, I can't.
How are the poem and the story similar?
Both are what happens when children are alone. Both are about a relationship between a brother and sister. Both are set at the end of summer and before the beginning of school. Both are about families that cook and eat meals together. Nope, it's the second one.
Realizing the consequences of shirking his
What's that
responsibility.
mean?
Shirk. You shirk a responsibility when you try to get out of it or refuse. Realizing the consequences of shirking his responsibility, Joseph dragged himself into the kitchen where Megan was gathering ingredients from the refrigerator. What up, Yeebers? It's Joseph Yee here with another challenge video. Megan looked up in disbelief and saw that Joseph was talking into his phone and had positioned it on the counter so he could record his live stream. Today's challenge? See how much you can annoy your sister while she tries to ignore you. Megan, her face flushed with rage, concentrated on the recipe, measuring out sesame oil and pepper flakes while Joseph hopped around, singing at the top of his lungs. When the water in the tea kettle began boiling, she moved around the tea kettle cautiously, trying not to touch it as she grabbed a pot holder. I think this challenge is going really well, Yeebers, because my sister's hands are shaking with anger.
Okay.
Fill in the blanks to contrast the details in the poem and the story.
The details in the poem and the story are different. In the poem, the narrator thinks this causes trouble. In the story, the brother Joseph makes Megan angry.
Joseph paused when he spotted Megan lifting the heavy tea kettle with difficulty. Whoa, you want to scald yourself? Mind your own business, Joseph. Seriously, let me do that before you get burned, Joseph said, taking the tea kettle and expertly pouring the boiling water over dried mushrooms to soften them. When he was done, Megan waited for him to continue irritating her, but he moved on to cubing the tofu. Megan added the ingredients to the pot while Joseph read over the remaining steps. He seemed to forget that his phone was still recording as they worked on the dish together, and by the time Mom walked in with Grandpa, the kimchi jjigae was bubbling away on the stove.
Okay, yeah.
Compare what happens in the poem and the story. What idea do the poem and the story share?
The poem and the story share siblings can be kind to each other.
As the kids hugged Grandpa and showed off the meal, the pride on their mom's face was clear.
Okay.
After dinner, Megan noticed Joseph staring down at his phone with a shocked look on his face. What? She asked.
Okay, next.
Fill in the blanks to explain how the poem and the story share a common theme.
In the poem, the narrator wants us to stay out of his room, but then she gives him a present. In the story, Joseph makes Megan angry, but then he helps her make dinner. Common theme is that even though siblings can be frustrating, their kind acts can make it easier to get along. Okay, anyways, that's it for today. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and share to your friends.
Okay.
So yeah, bye bye. See you in the next video.